At 10 o'clock, we're going to put step by step for all the steps of solve. We're just going to get through a few right there at 8:30. In chapter 2, it's all about solving. We're doing section 2.1 to 2.5. 2.1 to 2.2, solving linear equations. Linear equation is when it's just x to the first. Something that looks like, in terms of just a plain general expression, some a times an x plus some other number b is equal to some number c. That's x to the first. What does x equal? We want to get x by itself. We undo everything being done to the x. If there's something added or subtracted from it, we undo addition by subtracting from both sides. If there's something subtracted, we add something to both sides. If there's something divided, if x is being divided by something, we multiply to undo that. If there's something times the x, we divide both sides. But there's an order to things. That's why we're going to do it step by step. And yeah, I'm a broken record. And I'll tell you, I don't know if it's working for me after all these years. I mean, I should know better. But I would be letting everybody who is listening down if I didn't repeat. You know, Pete, Pete and repeat were in a boat. Pete fell over, who was left? Repeat. Pete and repeat were in a boat. Pete fell over, who was left? Repeat. Pete and repeat. Yes. I just keep repeating. Somebody came in this morning. Somebody here to do the bonus questions. And what? Oh, there's my headphones. I don't know if I want my headphones. No, I'm going to turn your headphones. What bonus question is that on? For the chapter 1 test. Well, one of those. Every day, with her and talking. I sent an email. I posted an announcement on Tuesday night about these are the kind of questions. So when do I do it? Well, you come into office hours. It's Thursday, so 8:20, or Tuesday, Thursday, 12 to 12. So I do it on Zoom. You know, like okay. I wanted to talk about it for 2 weeks, a week and a half. So I don't know. But it's practice. And if you don't catch on through the first part, that's the mistake. If you don't, from the very beginning, focus on this is how it has to be done and do it that way every single time. So you create the good habits and every single time do it that way. Focus and break all the bad habits. Don't even think of any other way to do it. What is your plan on how to solve this question? Think of your plan very clear, step by step. You get to use notes on your homework, you use notes on your quizzes. Focus on it step by step. Take yourself through it step by step. Talk yourself through it. Mumble yourself through it. Get the little bird in your head talking yourself through it. There's a little monkey, climbing, banging cymbals in your head like Homer Simpson. Get that going in your head so you know exactly what it is step by step. Because that's all it is. It's that fundamental idea of how we solve these things. Because we're going from there to solving things that look like this. And we have lots of methods to solve that. And you're going to have to choose at some point. Well, technically, I'll tell you this. I'm a dictator when it comes to that kind of a question in section 2.4. I will tell you exactly how I expect you to solve it for a question. Show me that you can solve this using factoring. Show me you can solve this using completing the square. Show me you can solve this using the quadratic formula. And then solve it any way you want. Pick any way you want. So there's 3 ways that you can solve something that looks like that. And then there's a couple more problems that basically are the same kind of question. You just have to figure out what method you want to use. I wonder if I'm thinking of looking like a review sheet that has something like it that you might want to try. Yeah. Tutoring, office hours, study groups, those things. Tutoring has been very low. I get more people on Friday mornings on Zoom for tutoring than I've been having people come to class. I don't know, maybe because you can stay home. I don't know. I don't know why. I kind of get an idea. Tuesday, Thursdays at noon, it's kind of like, oh, another hour. I don't know if I can do that. But yeah. 7:30 every morning. I want to get there for another hour before. Ugh. But that's what I can't do in office hour during class. So you make the most of it when you can. Okay. So that's what we take it. So we're going. And when we solve something like this, when we do factoring, it ends up looking like this. So we have to, in order to do that, we got to be able to do these. And it's all about building our fundamentals so we can do the next level. Person I was talking to this morning, he asked, do you like teaching? So yeah. I started teaching because they gave me a book and put me in a classroom. I was a basketball coach. Assistant principal says, you know what? You do a pretty good job out there coaching. You want to teach next year? Okay. So they threw me in a classroom, gave me a geometry book, and I started teaching. I hadn't finished my degree, never had a teacher's ed class. It was a private school. We didn't have to have those things. They only paid us $19,000 a year. But the way I teach is kind of like coaching. I want to prepare you for that next game or test or whatever. But it's not just that. If I'm coaching freshmen, I want them to not only be ready for a freshman game or a JV game, I want them to be able to play the varsity level. Beyond this. And that's kind of what the whole thing is about, is to get you ready to keep on going. Whether you do something with math or not, whether they go on to play college or, well, no more on play college. Not my players. Our median guys are this big. He's a lawyer now. One of my favorite players. But anyway. Basics. The first basic is simplify. If you notice those first three problems, there's no equation. There's no equals. You're not going to end up with x equal to anything. At the bottom of the box on something like this, there would be fill it in, x equals what? Because there's no equation to start with. Numbers 1, 2, and 3 are expressions. They're not equations. In order to have an equation, you have to have an equal sign. The directions simplified over there, the equations, they say solve. We want to know, what does x equal to make this equation true? What makes the left side equal the right side? So here we're just simplifying, combining like terms. And it boils down to keep on going back into your math lab, order of operations. Order matters. So parentheses. And the parentheses, there's nothing we can do with a 4x minus 2. They're not like terms. Negative x plus 6 minus that parentheses. So in order to do subtraction of a parentheses, you're going to have to distribute the negative. So here's what you need to get used to. Please, 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 if you do anything, what I'm about to show you is what I hope you continue to do, or what I hope you start doing. From left to right, bring everything down from top to bottom. You work the problem from left to right. Don't do a little bit here and then try to catch this back up. Or don't start this here and try to bring these back down. Negative x, I can't do that. Plus 6, can't do that. But I can do, so I'm working the problem from left to right. I can't do anything. This is like having -1 times 4x minus 2. So you're distributing the negative. A negative times positive 4x is now negative 4x. A negative times a -2 is now plus 2. And I'm just bringing everything across from left to right. You keep working the problem from left to right and then bring it down, whatever you haven't been able to do yet, so you keep track of everything. Be careful with your signs. If you're a person who writes very lightly, I bet you're missing out on some negatives somewhere. If you're really small, you like on your negatives like that, you may not see the negative on the next step. Okay. And then here, everything that's been done in parentheses, now we just look for multiplication, nothing's being multiplied. Division, nothing being divided. So we do addition and subtraction from left to right, but you can't add anything from left to right because there's no like terms in order. So we just start combining like terms, the ones that are like each other. The variables, that's a -1x and a -4x. So I can combine these together. What's -1x and -4x make? That's -5x. -1x and -4x makes -5x. And then you have a +6 and a +2 is a +8. The same answer would be +8 minus a 5x. They're exactly the same answer. As long as your signs are the same. It's a -5x minus 5x at the same time. That's a +8, that's a +8, the signs are the same. It doesn't matter if they're switched. However, it's better if you put the variable before the constant. Order is going to be nice when we do 2.4, 2.5, and we keep on going. You're going to want to have things line up from left to right. And number 2, we have 2 variables, got x and a y. We can't combine x's and y's, but we can combine y's with y's and x's with x's. There is a parenthesis. 2y minus 3x, nothing happened. So 5y plus 2 times. So to have to get rid of the parentheses, we're going to distribute the 2. So bring down the 5y. +2 times +2y is a +4y. And then a +2 times a -3x is a -6x. As you do that distribution, positive times positive stays plus. Then a positive times a negative is going to be subtraction. Those signs are going to be incredibly important. And then +7x. When we combine it with terms, 5y plus 4y is 9y. -6x plus 7x. Positive just x. Now it is 1x, but I will take off a point if you put 1x, because the directions are always going to stay simplified. 1 times x is just x. Otherwise, you could put 1 times 5, and that's right. That 1 times 5 is just 5. If I don't have to simplify 1 times x, I shouldn't have to simplify 1 times 5. Technically, I shouldn't have to simplify 1 times 1 times 1 times 5 times 1 times 1 times 1 because they're all problems. Don't make me. So you have to simplify anything that can. 1 times x is just an x. You don't have to put this. Many people, they need to see it. But now once you get to here, it's just x. This is perfectly fine. However, we have an alphabet system. It's better to be written as x plus 9y. Because if I can put numerically things in order, alphabetically things will also help organize information for maybe another step. We always want to try to get things in order when we can, because it allows something else to happen a little nicer. Both are fine. I'm not going to take off points if you have it, if you don't have it in the correct order or that order. I'm going to move 3 over here. Three minus parentheses, 7 minus 2x. Parentheses, 2x minus 5. Minus. Always going to the parentheses first. Nothing happened. So as we go from left to right, the first step would be let's get rid of the parentheses. If we're going to subtract this parentheses, we're going to distribute the negative. And what the negative is going to do, whether it's just a minus this, if it was a minus 4, you multiply by negative 4. But when it's just a minus, you're going to just have negative 1 times each one. Regardless of whatever you're going to distribute, the signs in here are going to come out as opposite signs. The signs will change. Because if I multiply by a negative, positives become negatives, and negatives will become positives when you distribute a negative. So first of all, bring down the 3. A negative times positive 7 is negative 7. A negative times negative 2x is positive 2x. A plus does not change any signs. It's just positive 1 times 2x. It stays positive 2x. A positive times a negative 5 is a negative 5, and then minus 12. So the only thing I did was get rid of the parentheses, and yeah, I got a really big mess there. Where I see mistakes, where I have seen mistakes at, is this starts getting jumbled up. Okay? Because it becomes intimidating as you start looking at it. Look at it from this perspective. It's a checklist. You're looking for like terms that you can combine together. Look for the like variable. Let's start with the variables. We want to find x's. Okay? It's kind of like you're doing one of those, find the hidden pony on a page, circle the hidden ponies. Well, 2x, x to the first. There's an x to the first, there's an x to the first. So we have a 2x and a 2x. There's no other x. So 2x plus 2x is? We have 4x. And if you notice, every time I do this stuff, I always just check it off on the top. Almost like a shopping list. I put all the 2x's in their own basket. And then all I have left are constants, are numbers. Careful with your signs. 3 minus 7. Negative 4. Take away 5 more. Negative 9. Negative 9 minus 12. Going to be negative 21. If you can do that, 3 minus 7 is negative 4. Negative 4 minus 5 is negative 9. Negative 9, take away 12 more is negative 21. That's fine. You're done. You could even just punch it up on your calculator, 3 minus 7 minus 5 minus 12. Okay? You're just combining all your constants. Or if you need to write it up, it's like this right here, that's a -4. So now I have this -4 and then -5, that one. So that's a -9. And then that -9 and a -12 gives me a -21. So if you have to bring them together, do that. But you're only focusing on the constants. There's a lot of things. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6 things there that you're trying to combine together. It can get a little just, overwhelming when you got 6 things. These are just x to the first and a constant. Wait until we get to x squared and a whole bunch of other things. That's as far as it goes. So where we're headed is we need to be able to simplify before we get solved. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put one really ugly, messy problem up here, and I'm going to take you through the steps. And all I want you to do is watch. I'm not going to write the steps down. That's going to be for the 10 o'clock. So I'm going to take you through about as ugly as I can think of, and then we'll go back to these and take it apart. So let's have some fractions here. Let's go with 3. This is not even dealing with quadratic yet. Those things in terms of linear stuff. Step number 1 is going to be simplify both sides completely. You have 2 sides of an equation, left side and the right side. You do not solve it in one step. If you're moving from one place to another place, you do not try to move one dish at a time. You try to put all the dishes in a box, you gather them all up, and then you move them. You don't just take one towel out to the car, the towel to the car, drive it over to your house, another towel over you. You try to gather all the towels together. You try to clean up your old house, pack it up with light terms, like things, and then move it. Same thing here. You want to clean up each side before you try to solve this thing. Before you try to get x by itself. Well, I don't want to combine any of that stuff together because I don't want to deal with fraction. So we want to undo the fraction. And the way we undo fractions is multiply every term by the least common denominator. I don't want to have fractions, so I need to undo the fractions. You multiply everybody by the least common denominator. So look at these denominators. We have a 5. We got a 4. We got a 3. We got a 2. We got a 6. You're not supposed to look at that and saying, oh, the common denominator is 1. Look at 2 at a time. 5 and 4. If I was just going to undo a 5, I'd multiply by 5. That'll undo it. But 5 is not going to undo the 4. So what you need is something that 5 and 4 both go into. What would be a common denominator if it was just a 5 and a 4? Be a 20. If I multiply this times 20, 5 will go into 20, 4 will go into 20. But here's the problem. If I multiply by 20, 3 does not go into 20. So now I've got the 3 involved. 20 and a 3. What's the first number that 20 and 3 can go into? So here's, if you don't know it, the next number that 20 does is 40. Will 3 go into 40? No. The next number that 20 can do is 60. Can 3 go into 60?
Yes.
Yeah. So you don't have to sit there and like be overwhelmed by it. Work on the 20. Because 20 is not going to go into a lot of things. You eventually will hit upon it and you'll recognize it. 20 is only going to go into 20, 40, 60. And then once you see the 60, yeah, we know 3 goes into 60. So the least common denominator for the 20 and the 30, 20 and 3, is going to be a 60. So a 60 will undo a 5, it'll undo a 4, it'll undo a 3. Now, what about 2? Can 60 undo a 2? Does 2 go into 60?
Yes.
Yeah. 2 will go into 60 30 times. So the least common denominator for 2 and 60 is still 60. Okay. 60 will undo that too. And then what about the 6? Will 6 get undone by 60? Yeah. 60 is the magic number. 60 is the least common denominator for all 5 of those fractions. Okay. So when you look at something that ugly, you just look at 2 denominators at a time. Try not to look at the whole thing and say, you know what, can I go to the bathroom? Or as Steve Martin would say, my mouth got face of the death catch. That's an old joke from 1977. I was 10. You even know who Steve Martin is? He's actually still relevant. He has a show to Only Murders in the Village. You could have started with 2 and 6. The first number for 2 and 6 would have been a 6. And then for the 3 and the 6, well, the first number for 3 and 6 is going to be a 6. And then you have 4 and 6. Well, the first number for 4 and 6 is going to be a 12. And then you get the 5 and the 12. And the first number for 5 and 12 is back to 6. Okay. So everybody gets multiplied by 6. Each individual term is going to get multiplied by 60. The whole purpose is to undo the fraction. This 5 goes into that 60 12 times. We're left with 12 times 3x, so that's 36x. Minus 4 goes into 60 15 times. So 15 times 9 is 135. Plus 3 goes into 60 20 times. 20 times 2x, that's a 40x. No more fractions on the left. The whole purpose of multiplying everything by the 60 is to undo those denominators. Any questions on that left side? Now this part, you see, it's got two terms in the numerator. So when I do 2 goes into 60 30 times, I still have 30 times the 5x minus 4. Now I can distribute up here and then bring down the answer, but I'm going to write it out so you'll see it. Minus 6 goes into 60 10 times. 10 times 7x, that's going to be 70x. I got blocked. The tumble. You guys know who to come back in states first name. No. Every day I teach, I just feel older and older. On the left, by my terms there. What's 36? And the 40 going to add up to 76x minus 135. Now over here, we still have to do a distribution. 30 times 5x is 150x. 30 times negative 4 is negative 120 minus 70x. So 86x minus 135 equals, we're not done simplifying, 150x minus 70x is 80x minus 120. All of that was step one. Take your time with step one because it's the most important step. If you clean it up, it becomes something a lot nicer to work with, something much easier to solve. Step two, and again, I'm going to write those up individually. Then we do 10. Gather all your variables on one side, get all your constants on the other side. We now, since we want to know what x equals, we got to separate the variables and the constants. Okay? So this is where you got to think ahead. I want to get and focus on the variables first. Focus on the x's. We either are going to bring the 76x over to the right side, and the way you would undo a positive 76x is you subtract 76x from both sides. So you'd have 80 minus 76x. Or you bring the x's to the left, you subtract 80x from both sides, 76x minus 80x, and you'd have it over here on the left. It doesn't matter. So you need to make a decision. Do you want to bring the x's to the left side or take it to the right side? So bring it over to the left. That means we're going to subtract 80x from both sides. And when I show you this stuff, this is the work I expect to see. 76x minus 80x is negative 4x. Minus 135 equals negative 120. If I had taken it to the right, subtract 76, 80 minus 76 would have been a positive 4x. But it doesn't matter. You'll see in a minute. Since I brought the x's to the left, I want to get the constant on the right. Separate the variable from the constant. So I'm gonna undo negative 135. I have to add 135. So negative 4x is equal to negative 120 plus 135 is 15. Now all you have left is multiplication. Undo everything being done to the variable. Just like you're unwrapping a Christmas present, but you don't want to tear the paper. So you have to be really careful about how you unwrap it. You want to get your variables on one side and then get your constant on the other. And then you undo multiplication or division. And this is multiplication being multiplied by negative 4. So you divide both sides by negative 4. Negative 4x divided by negative 4 is positive 1x. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. And then reduce it to lowest terms, but 15 and 4 don't have any common factors. So the final answer is 15 over 4. Negative 15 over 4. You plug in 15 over 4 for x, you get the left side equal to the right side. No decimals, always, unless the directions tell you to use decimals. There might be a 1 or 2 on there. But that's as ugly as 2.1, 2.2 might get in terms of fraction. How many of you actually opened up the announcement I put in Canvas? Sorry. Did you see that little problem in there at the very end? Solve this with fractions. So there's something like that. That's on the bonus for chapter 1. So fractions, right? So if you haven't done, well, only 2 people have come in and do the bonus already. So I think they got it right. They didn't need to see it done. I'm sure they didn't need the bonus either. So whatever. That's on there. There's 8 bonus questions at 4 points apiece. So you can max out 32 bonus points to tack on to whatever you get on the test itself. And no, I haven't even looked at them. I've looked at them, but I haven't started grading anything for either class. Okay. In your head, I bet you can do this one. What minus 5 is 18? 23 minus 5. And how do you know that? Is because this has to be 5, basically, if I'm going to take away 5 to get 18, then the answer has to be bigger, 5 more than the 18. If I take away 5, it has to be 5 more than the 18 itself. So it'd have to be a 23, and then I can take away 5 to get an 18. Well, that's not showing work. Undo what's being done. Since x has a minus 5, all you do is add 5. And if you saw that Wolverine shoot back. Laura, do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, never mind. I'm just gonna turn it to dust because nobody has been. Negative 5 times y is equal to positive 110. So there's nothing added or subtracted from this. It's just multiplication. So you undo multiplication with division. Divide both sides by negative 5. So positive y is equal to a positive divided by a negative is a negative. 110 divided by 5 is equal to 22. And think about what you're solving. When you can check your answer, -5 times -22 is supposed to equal positive 110, and that. Or x equals 0. Okay. 4 times what number is 0? What? 0. It has to be 0. The only way you can multiply and get 0 is because you're multiplying times 0. And that's a really important piece of 2.4 and 2.5. If A times B equals 0, then A equals 0 or the B equals 0. One of them has to be 0. Because that's the only way you can multiply and make 0. If we have A times B and we get 6, well, that could be 1 times 6. It could be 2 times 3. It could be 3 times 2. It could be 6 times 1. It could be -1 times -6. It could be 1/2 times 12. There's an infinite number of answers to make a 6. But when you have 0, one of them has to be 0. Here, that's a 4. Divide both sides by 4. And x is equal to, and here, I'm going to see, undefined. Because you get confused. You know, when you have 0 in a fraction, it's 0 or undefined, so you end up guessing. And people always guess wrong. Go back to the question, and you see 4 times undefined is 0. That's not, that wouldn't work. When 0's in the numerator, we get 0. When 0's in the denominator, that's when we have undefined. And one of the clues that I gave you in the Canvas announcement, find the domain. Find the domain of a given function. It was the second question on your 2.3 quiz. Okay? You write the answer using interval notation. In name on. Again, look at your notes, look at your 2.3 homework, look at what I put in the announcement. If you're going to come in and do the bonus question, why not actually prepare for it? Actually, we'll do. And then we run into something that's going to be some special cases, but we'll run into those at 10 o'clock. Now, you're going to have to know how to factor in this class, and also mention this at 10. We will either next Tuesday or next Thursday, it might be Tuesday, we will be doing a massive factoring review. Can you factor? So factoring quadratics. Because x squared minus 4 plus 3 equals 0, then this factors into x minus 3 times x minus 1. Hey, that's why we have this. If these two multiply and make 0, then either x minus 3 is the 0 or x minus 1 is the 0. Add 3. So x would have to be a 3. Add 1. This x would have to be a 1. Let's check one of those. Let's plug in 3. 3 squared. Minus 4 times 3. Plus 3. It's supposed to come out 0. 9. Minus 12. Plus 3. 9 minus 12 is negative 3 plus 3. And sure enough, if I plug in my answer, I get 0 equals 0. So we will be reviewing big time how to factor, and I'm not going to do it at 10 o'clock.